What's up, guys? Thank you for joining me. Today, I got a great guest. My old partner, Kenny Spector's back. Kenny and I were cops in the 2-8 precinct back in the early 90s. We stayed friends for about, I guess it's been more than 30 years. It's great to see you again, bro. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks, Paul. Good seeing you, buddy.
So here we are again, huh? Here we are again for the second time. You were saying that you're not surprised when we spoke on the phone that they did this again. I'm not surprised that the people still hate him and there are people that still want to kill him, but I am a little surprised that the Secret Service, at least the management, failed once again, because it turns out this guy was hiding in the bushes for 12 hours. And I just cannot believe that they dropped the ball again. I mean, it's great that the guy didn't get any rounds off, but how many times can Trump be lucky? And I think big picture, it was a failure.
Well, I think there's a lot of problems with Secret Service. I think the biggest problem is that they're under the umbrella of Department of Homeland Security. Mayorkas. And anybody who's paying attention, it's clear. And it's a terrible thing to say, because we would like to think, in a perfect world as Americans, that these federal law enforcement agencies are above board, and they're not. They're not. It's really messed up when you watch the party, the Democratic Party, that's using them as an arm, almost their own private security. It's very weird to watch them get up and accuse Donald Trump or the Republican Party of weaponizing the federal justice agencies. The fear and paranoia, Paul, that exists around Donald Trump is maddening. The fear, their lies is what they are, unfortunately, and people out there, they're crazy and they believe the lies. You see, Donald Trump was in office already for 4 years, and Donald Trump could have done any or all of these things that the left is saying he's going to do if he gets in a second time. If he gets in a second time, he's not going to leave office. If he gets in a second time, he's going to take away a woman's right to choose. If he gets in a second time, there's threats that there's going to be no more elections. Donald Trump is going to install himself as a king. Now, it's kind of, hard to believe that there's people out there, Paul, in a socialized, in a society, in an American society in 2024, that really believe that these things are going to happen. So what you have here is you have a lot of people operating off of fear. You have a lot of people operating off of lies. And you have a weaponized justice system that refuses to protect this man. I don't know whether they're doing it off of orders. I don't know whether they're doing it separately and distinctly for each agency. Their head is making the decision. But when we find out the people that are leading these agencies, how unqualified they are, probably unqualified to even have a firearm license. We've watched people not be able to holster their weapons. We've watched people not be able to get their weapons out of their holster. These people are unqualified to do the jobs that they're doing, and they're being put on Donald Trump's detail on purpose.
Well, they're commending the agent for, I don't know how he saw it. He saw the muzzle of that gun from 300 to 500 yards away. I wear glasses. My eyesight's not that great. I couldn't have seen that. So it's not the agents, just like the police department. It's never the cops. It's the people above them. Same thing with the Secret Service. That agent isn't responsible for calling the shots and saying, let's open up the perimeter. I don't understand why that perimeter wasn't made bigger to, especially at that road. That road, I think, is called Congress Avenue. And that's where all the paparazzi stays, and they sneak in there so they can get pictures of Trump. That's a known area. And they should have had the perimeter expanded. The sheriff was asked about this. First, let me play the sheriff, the beginning of the press conference. And then I'll play you what he said about why the why the perimeter was so small. Hold on.
Call came out, shots fired. That was called in by the Secret Service. Because we're in constant contact with them all the time, we were notified of that, and we had units here that immediately sealed off the area. Fortunately, we were able to locate a witness that came to us and said, hey, I saw the guy running out of the bushes. He jumped into a black Nissan, and I took a picture of the vehicle and the tag, which was great.
This is what I want to ask you, and we're going to come back to it, and I'm going to show you the clip from the prosecutor. Right now, all they have is a witness seeing a guy running from the bushes. I don't know what made him take a photograph of the car, but either this guy is just had a really strong hunch or he has law enforcement background. But you'll hear the prosecutor pick up on this later, where right now all we have is a guy running from the bushes. They'll match the gun to him, but you'll hear him talk later. It's just a few seconds where he talks. This is the guy right here in the background, Dave Ehrenberg. He's the prosecutor. But I find it not strange, but I guess very lucky that all he saw was a guy running from the bushes, and he decided to take a picture of the vehicle, which was also stolen, by the way. Okay, hold on.
So we had that information. Our real-time crime center put it out to the license plate readers. And we were able to get a hit on that vehicle on I-95 as it was headed into Martin County. We got a hold of Martin County Sheriff's Office, alerted them, and they spotted the vehicle and pulled it over and detained the guy. After that, we took the the witness that witnessed the incident, flew him up there, and he identified as the person that he saw running out of the bushes and jumped into the car. Now, in the bushes where this guy was is a AK-47 style rifle with a scope, 2 backpacks which were hung on the fence that had ceramic tile in them, and a GoPro, which he was going to take pictures of.
Somebody was saying that not only did he want to stream this to social media, but he may have been recording this to prove whoever it is that hired him that he was the one that got the job done. Because unlike the first Trump shooting, which is crazy now, we have to specify which Trump assassination attempt are we referring to, because now there's 2. But unlike the one in Butler, where the cameras were there and everybody saw it, there were no cameras here. So this guy wanted to document it. Somebody on Fox was saying that it's possible that whoever hired him, he wanted proof to let them know that he was, not only that Trump was shot, obviously that would have been all over the news, but he was the one that did it to get paid, or, you know, for whatever reason, if someone hired him. I'm going to play him next, talking about why the perimeter wasn't expanded. But what do you think of what he said so far about the GoPro and the steel plates? The ceramic plates tell me that he was ready for a shootout.
Well, somebody said when it came to this person specifically, he had a following online. He's been online for a long time now. Generated followers. People that generate followers to a certain degree, if they get an amount that's substantial in their belief, they want to show their followers that they're somebody that carries through with what they say they're going to do. So Trump's a threat to democracy, and I don't know how many followers he has, but to what you were saying, sure, wow, let me videotape this and let me show the people who actually tune into my wacky channel, who are just as crazy as I am, that I pulled off this assassination. These people want to fulfill their dreams. They're motivated by hate. They're motivated by anger. They're motivated by the left-wing media, 100%. They're motivated by words from Hillary Clinton, who can't even let this stew for a couple hours. She has to come out the very next day, and she has to say that we can't let Trump near the White House.
Wait, well, I didn't hear her statement. What did she say?
She made her statement yesterday. Her statement was something along the lines of Trump remains the single biggest threat to this world.
I don't understand why it's so difficult for the press to have a consistent narrative about how dangerous Trump is. The late, great journalist Harry Evans, one time said that, journalists should, really try to achieve objectivity. And by that, he said, I mean, they should cover the object. Well, the object in this case is Donald Trump, his demagoguery, his danger to our country and the world, and stick with it.
These crazy leftists, they don't want separation now between their crazy followers. They want the next man up. One's been killed. One's been arrested. Who's the next man up? They don't want to wait 35, 40 days now till the next attempt. They want to continue to fuel this rage. They want to continue to fuel these psychotic leftist nuts. And they want to put somebody who has a platform like Hillary Clinton out there the very next day to say, forget about a threat to the country or the democracy of the United States of America. Now Trump is a threat to the entire world. You see, we want to bring in outsiders. We want to bring in anybody who's willing to get involved in taking a shot at Donald Trump. We want to be able to fuel your anger with our lies. CNN's responsible for this. MSNBC's responsible for this. Those are news reporting agencies that don't report the news, they make it up.
Right.
Again, like I said, Paul, and I think it bears repeating. We're talking about a man who's been in office for 4 years, and common sense would tell you that if he was going to implement any of these draconian laws that the left say he's going to implement, it would have been done already. What's really going on here is the level of criminal activity that exists right now within the federal government is so deep and dark that these people are afraid that if this man gets in, people are going to have to answer for their crimes. Does anybody really believe that Donald Trump is not going to start his own investigation with his own panel on who tried to kill him? Because what we have right now, Paul, is we have a circus. We have an act. We have a play. The House of Representatives is Republican majority.
They're cowards, bro. They're cowards.
They're part and parcel and responsible for the second assassination attempt.
Yeah, I say all the time, the Democrats are evil, but the Republicans are cowards. Jesse Kelly calls them low T GOP. I wish I thought of that.
What we have right now is we have a right that is completely useless, weak. I call them the low T GOP. That's really what they are.
We watched the Republican House of Representatives get laughed at by Hunter Biden. He refused his subpoena and nothing was done. We've watched the Republican House of Representatives have Mayorkas testify. All they do is they stand up and they say, you, sir, should be fired or you, sir, should quit. No, you know what? They actually have the power to force him off the job. It's these House investigations, they're scams and they're shams. You get a couple Republicans to come out and say that, the FBI is not being forthcoming with information. What's wild, Paul? To hear 2 months after an assassination attempt that the FBI still has no motive. And the FBI has no motive for the second attempt over the weekend. Well, I got to tell you something about the FBI is unable to obtain a motive. You know what that's code for, Paul? That's code for the FBI knows exactly why these people engaged Donald Trump. But they're not going to come out and say it. They're not going to come out and say that these people have been radicalized by the left-wing media. They're not going to come out and say that current sitting politicians, i.e. the president of the United States, who says, put a target on him, put a target on Trump.
A bullseye.
President Joe Biden is walking back comments where he said it was time to, quote, put Trump in the bullseye. In an interview with NBC, the president called the comment a mistake.
You called your opponent an existential threat on a call a week ago. You said it's time to put Trump in the bullseye. There's some dispute about the context, but I think you appreciate.
I didn't say crosshairs. I was talking about focus on. Look, the truth of the matter was, what I guess I was talking about at the time was, there was very little focus on Trump's agenda.
Yeah, the term is bullseye.
Before I switch the screen, you think that the GoPro is then for his followers, like he acted alone and nobody hired him, or he wasn't working with anyone?
No, I don't believe any of these people act alone. You're looking at a man who, by his accounts, he doesn't have any money. He doesn't have any income. That's the word coming out about the interview process that took place. However, this is a man that got himself from Hawaii to Florida. And somewhere during this trip, this flight over from Hawaii into California and then California to Florida, was able to obtain a weapon, was able to conceal that weapon, transport that weapon. Somebody with no money can't fly from Hawaii to Florida.
Right.
So no, none of these people work alone, Paul. These people go ahead.
We know that he was also in Ukraine, and we're thinking Iran. Nobody's mentioned maybe Ukraine or China even behind it. Do you think that's a possibility, or you think it's tied to people here?
No, I think, well, Paul, Ukraine and China are tied to people here.
Yeah,
I mean, Joe Biden starts a State of the Union speech, and the first thing he mentions is Ukraine.
Thank you. Six days ago, Russia's Vladimir Putin sought to shake the very foundations of the free world, thinking he could make it bend to his menacing ways. But he badly miscalculated. He thought he could roll into Ukraine and the world would roll over. Instead, he met with a wall of strength he never anticipated or imagined. He met the Ukrainian people. And President Zelensky, to every Ukrainian, their fearlessness, their courage, their determination literally inspires the world. Groups of citizens blocking tanks with their bodies, everyone from students to retirees to teachers, turned soldiers defending their homeland. And in this struggle, President Zelensky said in his speech to the European Parliament, "Light will win over darkness." The Ukrainian ambassador to the United States is here tonight, sitting with the First Lady. Let each of us, if you're able to stand and send an unmistakable signal to the world of Ukraine. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
So Ukraine and China are so deeply interwoven into the politics of this nation. A lot of what goes on in this nation, a lot of the suppression of American freedoms, it's occurring because the leftist party wants to promote Ukraine. Ukraine is a proxy war for the United States of America. Vladimir Putin has been on the radar of the United States of America since he took office, since he's been in their KGB. The United States of America realizes that they can't fund, and they would have no support at all in the United States of America for a war against Russia. Ukraine has been their proxy. Ukraine's been their proxy to take out Vladimir Putin. That's just the way it is. They want him gone. There's a reason why the leftist government, the Democratic Party of this nation, says ceasefire in Gaza, yet fund Ukraine. Ceasefire in Gaza because they don't want Israel to destroy Palestine. So now if you're promoting if you're advocating for a ceasefire in one area of the world, wouldn't you think that you would advocate for a ceasefire in the other war? But you don't ever hear ceasefire in Ukraine. Never.
No,
You don't
great.
hear ceasefire in Russia. You hear ceasefire in Gaza and continue to fund the war in Ukraine.
Right. What you hear is Ukraine must win and Israel must be careful.
Sure. Or Israel must stand down. You know, and you know, you have Harris, the president of the Senate, who refuses to take her seat when Benjamin Netanyahu has an invite to come and address the Congress of the United States of America.
She hates Israel. She wouldn't even meet with Netanyahu when he went to Congress to make a very important speech. She refused to be there because she was at a sorority party of hers. She wanted to go to the sorority party. She hates Israel.
There's no democratic support in this nation for Israel at all. Now, Harris can get up and say, well, her and Biden have said the same thing. Israel has a right to defend themselves. However, or there's always a but.
Yep, always.
However, Benjamin Netanyahu's been too aggressive with his defense. However, we're no longer going to fund Israel's right to defend themselves. It's empty words from a party that wants destruction to Israel. A party that wants Ukraine to take out Vladimir Putin. Vladimir Putin's not. Well, I'm not going to go there.
I got enough of problems with you too.
I don't support Vladimir Putin.
Of course not.
But I would warn people. This is what I would do. I would warn people, or I would advise people to do a little more of their own research and find out or name what the threat to America is from Russia. Because Russia and America have been engaged in a Cold War to a certain degree since World War II.
Right.
You know, since the United States and or since Germany or since Europe split Berlin. The Berlin Wall, and Russia took, you know, the west side, and then, you know, Europe took the east side. And, you know, Russia's been no friend of the community since World War II. However, what's the threat that exists? This paranoia that Vladimir Putin's going to launch nuclear missiles against America. So we all live in this fear of World War III from Russia. I don't see it happening. You want to know where World War III is going to come from? World War III is going to come from Iran. World War III is going to come from the Middle East. World War III may come from China, who has no problem at all flying spy balloons over American military institutions and not getting shot down.
Dude, I'm still working on my video for the debate because I did one on Joe Biden. It was very well received. I think it's close to 100,000 views. When I do the one on Kamala's lies, Joe Biden, I limited it to his top 10. Kamala's she's over 24 right now. And I was laughing and livid at the same time when she said that Trump is soft on China and is selling us out to China.
He invited trade wars. You want to talk about his deal with China? What he ended up doing is, under Donald Trump's presidency, he ended up selling American chips to China to help them improve and modernize their military, basically sold us out.
You mentioned the spy balloons. There's so much more that I discovered that I didn't know about. I never heard of a company called Huawei, which is a telecommunication company that they put on cell phone towers to spy not only on our military operations, but on our missile silos.
The FBI knew that these small rural telecommunications companies out in the Midwest were using Chinese-made Huawei equipment on top of their cell towers in places like Colorado and Nebraska that were close to sensitive military installations, including U.S. nuclear missile silos. Now, these companies say they were using this equipment because it was cheap and it was reliable, but the FBI, in the course of this investigation, was able to determine that this equipment had the capability to recognize capture, and potentially even disrupt restricted Defense Department communications, potentially offering China a really pivotal and dangerous window into command and control for America's nuclear arsenal.
I can't wait to do this in that video, but I'll just tell you this now. China owns 383,000 acres of farmland. In 2010, it was only 13,000. 97% of that increase in farmland purchases happened under two administrations, Obama and Biden-Harris. When Obama left, it was 192,000 acres, and it stayed that way the whole entire time Trump was in office. As soon as he left, they upped it up to 383,000 acres. So yeah, they have a tremendous amount of farmland, but they also owned 80% of our seaport cranes at our ports of entry. They got them in Seattle, in LA, in Texas, at Florida. And those cranes, on top of those cranes, they found these modems that can not only transmit surveillance to China, but it would allow China to operate those cranes remotely. So the spy balloon is just one of many things. And there's others too. I don't want to go into it now because we started with the Trump shooting. as usual, we're all over the place. But yeah,
well, you know what, Paul, it's funny. We're all over the place because if you're paying attention, it's all over the place. You know, politics has, I love to watch these people on Facebook, these social media sites who put up this picture or this meme of, it's okay if you're a Democrat or a Republican, something to the effect that we can agree to disagree. We'll still be friends and you can have your, I'm out on that. Right now, as we speak, we have one party that all they do is threaten death and destruction. They're actively seeking to have somebody running for office killed. They actively engaged in not allowing their own voters in their own party to vote in a primary. They're actively engaging in real threats to voting democracy. And then you have the other party, which actively wants to shut down a border, which actively wants to kick out illegals that are currently in this country, which actively wants to give the power back to the police departments, which actively wants to engage in finding out why there's so much cancer in this country from foods that are bioengineered. The differences between what's going on between the two parties, I can't have friends. I can't have people and say it's okay for you in my life to think that you're going to be successful and safe and healthy by voting for what's being offered by the left. The left doesn't promote harmony, joy. All they do is engage in fear. Everything, you have to be afraid of everything. They're the only ones that can save you from everything. And everything bad the boogeyman that's going to come and knock on your door at 4 o'clock in the morning has been put on your front porch because of Donald Trump. They don't take responsibility for nothing. This is almost 4 years into their administration. Joe Biden is done, finished, kaput. He ain't coming around anymore. He's not lending a hand. He's not in charge. He's not engaged. He's not asking what he can do for his last 3 months to be a successful president.
Well, dude, let me, I have clips and I feel like I don't want to lose where I am, but they asked him about this, about the shooting. And just like every other Democrat, if they're not blaming Trump, they have to blame someone else. Now, first, let me go back to why the area wasn't opened up for more surveillance. This is why Trump didn't have an expanded detail.
At this level that he is at right now, he's not the sitting president. If he was, we would have had this entire golf course around it. Well, because he's not, the security is limited to the areas that the Secret Service deems possible. So I would imagine that the next time he comes to the golf course, there'll probably be a little bit more people around the perimeter. But the Secret Service did exactly what they should have done. They provided exactly what the protection should have been, and their agent did a fantastic job.
So you knew that, listen, they're pretending that Trump is a prior president like he's George Bush. He's Bush or he's Jimmy Carter, right? Clinton. The threats against Trump, not only because he's running again and he's the only, he won the primary, and he's not just running against other Republicans to get to the general, but the election being 60 days away. Forget all that. The bottom line is he's already had an attempt on his life. So that's where I'm not going to say the Secret Service did well. The guys on the ground, as usual, they do well, just like the cops. I'm sure you went through it with the fire department, where guys that are running into a fire are much different than people that sit in the office and don't do anything, right? So I don't have a problem with the way the guys handle it on the ground, especially seeing that muzzle. But somewhere, somebody makes a decision that we're not going to use common sense and expand that perimeter because of labels. And the labels in this case happen to be a sitting president and a prior president. Dan Bongino brought up a great point. I wish I could remember the person's name, but he said, listen, this person is now the CEO of Twitter, okay? She's the CEO. A lot of people don't know that. Elon Musk is no longer the CEO. He's no longer the chairman. He's just the owner, right? But he doesn't do the day-to-day operations. This person does. If you're going to do protection for both of these people, if you're going to provide protection for both of these people, are you going to give the CEO more protection than Elon Musk simply because she's a higher rank or she's more involved? People don't even know who this person is. They know who Elon Musk is, so that's the name that will draw fire and threats, and he needs higher protection because of who he is. So the label that he's not a sitting president, I feel, is a joke. But it's not made by the Secret Service that's on the ground. It's made by the higher-ups, which is usually the problem in any job you could think of. It's people sitting on their ass in an office making these decisions. And with limited resources, I think the Secret Service did act well. It would have been nice if you shot the guy, but it's always the people above us that seem to give us the most problem. What do you think of them? What do you think of them not expanding that perimeter?
I think it's a successful failure. I think the whole thing's a failure, Paul. It's a failure because you have somebody who admitted to being there for 12 hours. This is a main road. Donald Trump has 2 golf courses in the area, one in Palm Beach where this golf course was, and one on Donald Ross Boulevard in Jupiter. They're all on the main road. What you have here is and they're going to try to deem this as a success. How does somebody get so far on 95 into the next county before he stopped? And this is a success. And this is the communication that you're promoting went so well. This guy, who I believe was the sheriff of that particular county, may have been Palm Beach County, the one that was speaking, wants to tell everybody how successful the program in Florida was for stopping this and has been. But I don't see success in somebody that was able to get shot at, leave his location, find his vehicle that was parked for 12 hours. Nobody noticed the same vehicle in the same spot for 12 hours. Able to get in that vehicle.
100%. Exactly.
Way to 95 and then make his way to the next county before being stopped. And you're selling this as a communication success. You're selling this. Yes, the attempt, which was going to be made clearly, was stopped. But then I question, what did this agent or this member of the sheriff's department notice at that particular time that wasn't noticed for 12 hours? In jails and in schools, Paul, I mean, in high schools and grade schools throughout this nation, security does perimeter checks. We see the car with the yellow flashing light go around, and that's their job. And they just do circles, and they do circles, and they do circles. They do circles to look for holes in the fence. They do circles to look for vehicles that could be parked on the side of the street that aren't allowed to be there. I mean, this is security 101. And the Secret Service wants to hang their hat that this was a success. This was a failure. because this guy did not just park his car, walk out, engage at that immediate moment, and then get pushed out and pushed away. No, this is a man that sat there for 12 hours and had everything he needed to wait and lie in wait for. He had food, he had drink. Clearly, he had his vehicle close enough that he was able to get into it.
Right. Listen, we used to work. I don't know if you did them, but when I first went to Midnights, being the rookie, they would have, I think only on the Midnights, something called no parking details. And I used to go with all the other rookies. And your job was to keep nobody from parking on a certain street. So let's say Fifth Avenue from 5-1 to 5-5, nobody parks there. And you'd sit in the RMP, and then you'd go up and down. And if anybody did park, you get over there and you say, listen, you can't park here. For whatever reason, there's a parade route tomorrow. They're filming a movie for something pretty minor. You would think they would have someone stationed outside his golf course, especially on Congress Avenue, that street where he is close to the public. You think you'd have somebody watching that area, or at least video cameras, or like you said, do a surveillance and wrap around that golf course.
Everybody in the world has a drone. Everybody in the world has a drone. This was a successful failure. It wasn't as bad as the Pennsylvania shooting, but nevertheless, who thwarted the shooting again? A civilian. A civilian had, just like the civilians in Pennsylvania who were yelling for over 3 minutes. There's audio tape, Paul. Somebody on the roof over and over and over and over again for 3 minutes. Lots of people, not one, lots of people that started to scramble and make their way away from that building because they noticed this person. And then now here we are, whatever it is, 2 months later or a month and a half later, and the culprit is found again by a civilian. A civilian who got enough common sense, enough couth, or maybe like you said, some sort of police background to take a picture and provide that information. And this, the sheriff of Palm Beach County wants to get up and say, what a successful operation. Let me introduce you to how often we communicate with the Secret Service. Let me introduce you to some of the procedures we have. And procedures, 12 hours, got in his car, drove however many miles away, and was caught because of a civilian again.
So not just 12 hours, but 12 hours the car parked. I don't know how close it was parked to him.
Close enough,
but it's a stolen car.
Yeah.
So at the very least, if you're running plates, it would come back stolen, right? Yep. That's the first thing. And like I said, we would get there if the parade started at like 11 in the morning. We'd get there at midnight because we needed about 12 hours to make sure nobody would park. And then we'd have to find out who owns this car. Where do we tow it? Can they move it? Right. So he was in there 12 hours ago. And they're saying that Trump made this as a last minute decision, that he wanted to go play golf, which obviously then makes you think, is this an inside job? And go ahead.
Not an inside job. I know a lot of people want to say that this was an unscheduled event. Not an inside job. It's just known, and somebody said this, and I believe this is probably more apt to be believable. This guy sat there multiple days, multiple times, and just waited until the time that Trump came off the campaign trail for a day or two and played golf. You didn't need the inside information. I know that they want to try to sell it at, hey, wait a minute, who's giving the inside information? I mean, I don't know. Is Trump scheduling his golf game with the Secret Service? He lives there. That's his house. That's his Florida residence.
You said that he was there a couple of days? He had been there a few days?
I believe that this was just a situation where this guy set himself up for maybe 12 hours a day during daylight and just waited Trump out. And that's worse if that happened, Paul, because
because it's multiple times that you missed him.
Yep.
Right.
He wasn't there just one day for 12 hours. He was there for however many days he had to be there until he had the opportunity to pull this off.
Well, you know what would help? Do we know when that car was reported stolen?
Right now,
because if it was reporting the day before, then obviously, unless he was stealing other cars and bringing them there. But I don't know how you can leave a car on site that close to anything having to do with Trump and not have somebody look after it. So, but like you said, they're saying that this is a success. They're proud of it. Here is the Here's the Secret Service guy who's filling in now. Let me see if I can get this to play since the other one got fired.
It was an off-the-record movement, off the record. And the president wasn't even really supposed to go there. It was not on his official schedule. And so we put together a security plan, and that security plan worked.
See, bro? The security plan worked. They're saying how great it was. They're saying how great it was. I don't know how you could say that something like that worked.
This guy didn't get off. This guy didn't get off his shot. Is what we're hearing. He didn't get. He was shot at. He never shot himself. Is it a success if he pulls one round? Is that Secret Service director going to get up there as bold as he was, not take any questions? He went up there and told you like it is. This was a complete success. We foiled it. We foiled the attempt and just turn around and leave the microphone. Is it a success if he shoots one round? No, it's back to being a failure. This was a successful failure because he didn't shoot one round, but he perched himself for a long time. He wasn't accosted. He wasn't bothered. Clearly, he was comfortable enough to stay there for 12 hours. And clearly, in my opinion, he had done this enough where he was able to give himself the out that he needed to get himself on 95 and get himself away, far enough away. And this guy was far enough away where when they pulled him out, he acted like it was a car stop for speed.
Yeah.
Not like, hey, I know you guys saw me. I know I've been running from you guys from the golf course. No, he was able to get away for such a long period of time and so far away from these cops that he acted like, what are you stopping me for? They already said they had to take the picture from the bystander. They had to look at the vehicle that he was in, run the plate, and then get on 95 and find this guy.
Here's the problem that I think you're going to have legally. And of course, I don't agree with this, but I'm just being a realist. We know that they find new ways to charge Trump with anything and everything, okay? But I don't know how they're going to say that they can charge him with attempted murder. Simply because first, the gun and his prints and the DNA and stuff will put him at the scene. Okay. Right now, all we have right now initially until those tests come back is the guy seeing him running, which again, I think is weird that this guy just happened to take a picture of it. But because, and I know this sounds insane and I don't want to sound like CNN, but I'm just saying what the prosecutor and what the DA, I don't know, the DA I think is Dave Ehrenberg, so he's a good guy, a Democrat, but he's a good guy. Listen to what he said about charging him, because I knew that this was going to come up.
Because the former president was so far away, 300 to 500 yards away on a different hole, I think it's going to be tough to charge him with a crime against Trump. Much easier to charge him with a crime against a Secret Service agent who apparently saw the rifle pointed at him. That's the key witness here, and that would be perhaps the most serious charge.
So, I mean, you kind of knew that was coming because they would do it for everyone else, but for Trump, I think he has a point.
Yeah, I don't know if I agree with that, and I don't know if we should agree with that, Paul. We would hope that our nation is still a nation of law, and laws or crimes sometimes, not all, sometimes, if they're prosecuted correctly, crimes need to be escalated to become another crime. You know, crimes need to be escalated until they reach a point that they've reached the Class A felony. And pulling the trigger, in my opinion, is an assassination attempt.
Yeah, but he didn't pull the trigger.
Correct.
I'm just saying this is what they're going to say. We always need to learn and to be prepared for what the other side is going to say. And we know that if this guy gets into court, he can get a dumb jury. Look what happened with Alvin Bragg. And he could say, I was there looking to shoot birds.
No,
right?
I don't believe that anybody in law enforcement, anybody in the district attorney's office is looking to cut this guy a break or protect him to any degree at all. His background, his criminal background is so extensive. This guy, I think, has had over 100 police encounters in his life. This is a bad person with a lot of psychological issues. He's a toss-away, Paul. He's a throwaway. Believe me. Even though I believe, and I could be sounding a little wacky now, I believe that even the wackiest liberal in the world would think that this guy's a throwaway.
Dude, listen, they were making excuses for bin Laden. When bin Laden was caught or killed, you had Michael Moore and a couple of liberals that we weren't that insane in 2010, who were saying, I wish they didn't kill bin Laden. I think he deserves his time in court. They just offered a plea to the Sheikh, Sheikh Mohammed, the guy who's responsible for 9/11, where 3,000 of our people, of our innocent civilians were killed. They're giving him no death penalty.
The Defense Department says the man accused of plotting the September 11th attacks and the two accomplices have reached a plea deal. It is a controversial twist in this long-running case, as Charlie D'Agata reports now from the Pentagon. Charlie, good morning.
Good morning to you. Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, also known as KSM, and two other defendants have reached a pre-trial agreement, as we understand it, that will, according to multiple sources, allow them to escape the death penalty. In exchange, they would plead guilty for their roles in planning and supporting the September 11th attacks, which killed nearly 3,000 people. KSM, a U.S.-educated engineer, is accused of plotting the idea of flying hijacked planes into buildings. Any deal to spare them the death penalty will enrage the families of 9/11 victims. They're expected to enter those pleas as early as next week.
We're living in an insane world where, I mean, it has substantial penalties. They charged him with two things. Those can carry 15 years. I'm just saying this guy lawyered up already. He's not speaking, which to me, an idiot like this, they're proud. They want everyone to know. They brag. I think he was coached to say, if you get caught, don't say anything. He's already asked for a lawyer, so the cops are not going to speak him, even though in a situation like this, you don't have to use Miranda in situations, where it's imminent threat to life. But I would not be surprised if those two charges that you just heard the DA say are the only charges. If they charge him with attempted murder on the Secret Service agent, that has a better chance of sticking than it does to charging him with trying to kill Trump. I'm just saying that's the world we live in. It makes me want to throw up. I can't believe it, but that is my prediction. It's going to go that way.
Yeah, but
he's not going to get charged with that.
How can it go any other way? I mean, you and I, in our interactions with people on the street, we fought people with firearms in their pocket, who we knew they were trying to pull those firearms out while we were engaged in hand-to-hand combat. Now, because we were able to get their hands off the firearm and place them in handcuffs, we could never charge somebody with attempted murder on us, even if that was their intent. If we weren't able to physically overcome them during the fight and they had the opportunity, we fought people with firearms all the time. We never charged attempted murder. You got CPW.
Exactly. That's my point.
Yeah,
26502.
Yeah, but I don't know. I think you're sounding disappointed that they're not going to invoke any other charges, maybe even attempted assassination, when the trigger wasn't pulled.
Yeah, I'm upset that they won't, but I don't see them doing it. And as you just heard from the DA saying it's hard to prove,
and I agree.
And this isn't his attorney. This is the guy who's supposed to prosecute this mutt.
Sure,
he's saying it's difficult to prove that he was trying to shoot Trump 500 yards away. I'm just saying it's not going to be that easy to prove. Dude, do you remember Kate Steinle, the girl in San Francisco, when the illegal immigrant picked up a gun and shot her in the back, and she fell into her father's arms?
Sure,
and she was on the pier. Yeah, help me, Dad, help me. And he held his daughter as she died. Right. We were begging for this guy to be arrested and the book thrown at him and to go away for life. Guess what? San Francisco, right? A San Francisco jury, not guilty.
And the president, not surprisingly, not happy with this decision. A lot of other people out there aren't too happy with it as well. As a man who was already a felon in the country illegally after being deported 5 times and admitted to shooting Kate Steinle, today was acquitted in her killing. Shock and outrage tonight over the not guilty verdict in the Kate Steinle murder trial. Jose Inez Garcia Zarate, an undocumented immigrant and convicted felon, deported 5 times before accidentally shooting and killing 32-year-old Steinle in San Francisco in 2015, acquitted of first and second-degree murder and involuntary manslaughter, convicted only of a lesser charge of possessing a firearm as a felon. The 6 men and 6 women on the jury were ordered not to factor Garcia Zarate's immigration status into their decision, but this case has become a flashpoint in the immigration and sanctuary debate. President Trump writing on Twitter, a disgraceful verdict in the Kate Steinle case. No wonder the people of our country are so angry with illegal immigration. Attorney General Jeff Sessions releasing a scathing statement that read in part, I urge the leaders of the nation's communities to reflect on the outcome of this case and consider carefully the harm they are doing to their citizens by refusing to cooperate with federal law enforcement officers.
Not guilty. Accidental discharge or whatever reason they came up with. Wasn't his gun. You had him at CPW at the very least. Not guilty. I'm just saying this is Florida, so it's not New York like Alvin Bragg, but I would not be shocked. Don't misunderstand me. I wish this guy would. I believe in capital punishment, okay? I believe some of these crimes that are being done today, I'm sick. I believe in medieval torture. If you watch my Twitter and I see some of these crimes that are done to these children, I say, make medieval torture great again. Because some of these disgusting people that walk among us are not fit to be human and they shouldn't be here. So I want to be clear. I wish they charge him, but I would not be surprised, as we just heard him say, they're not going to get him for trying to kill. They're not going to charge him for trying to assassinate Trump, and that's disturbing.
I don't know. What's disturbing is the person himself, the individual. This guy, his pictures, his background, his history. He's disturbing just as an individual. I think that we have to be careful overcharging. I think that be careful because you set yourself up to lose everything by looking to gain everything. This guy's never getting out of jail. He's never getting.
No, I agree. They can make those 2 other charges. One is 15 years. I don't know what the other one is.
This guy's 56. He looks like he's 86. This guy never getting out of jail. He's never getting out of jail because of his previous history. He's never getting out of jail because clearly, and people have been interviewed about him, he's a threat. He's been a threat to a lot of people for a long time now. So, what are you gaining by... And if it was an actual assassination attempt, the federal government would be handling this right now. And they're not pulling it from Palm Beach County because at the end of the day, it really is possession, criminal possession of a firearm, a defaced firearm. He may even be a felon, a previous history of a felon, in which case he can't. There's enough to keep this guy in. We know, the people that pay attention know what this guy's likely what it is that he wanted to do. And he was stopped from doing it. However, even when a lot of these people, they're crazy, Paul. I mean, all of them are crazy, but they're on suicide missions too. He didn't engage the agent that fired at him. He left immediately. The second he was engaged, he left. He had cover. He clearly knew the terrain. He was there for maybe multiple days, but certainly the day of for 12 hours. What harm in taking a shot back at the people that are shooting at you? Because that's what most of these psychos do. They're going to go down in a ball of flame. The second rounds went off, this guy got in his car and he left. It's very difficult, in my opinion, to overcharge that. Because
I agree. I think we both agree. We wish that they would charge him with trying to assassinate Trump. I just don't think it's going to happen.
It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen.
No.
The guy has long enough criminal history that he's never getting out. I mean, listen, who wants to do lifetime in jail in Florida? This guy's going up the river. It's a done deal. I think what we have to understand is that, and somebody said this, and I said this too, but I saw it on TV, but I said it before I saw it on TV. There's 2 outcomes, in my opinion, and both of them are likely. If Trump loses this election, he goes to jail. These bullshit charges in New York City, these Manhattan Alvin Bragg charges. If Trump wins, they're going to continue to try to kill him.
I know. And dude, listen, just based on probability, you could only be lucky a certain amount of times, right? The worst thing about good luck is it eventually runs out. And I don't call this a success. Obviously, Butler wasn't a success. I do believe in God. I think God was with him. Thankfully, like Eric Trump was on saying, if a bird had just come by and distracted the agent, or this glare of the sun, and he didn't pick up that muzzle, he may have thought it was clear. Trump comes riding up in the golf cart, and that's it. He's done. Eventually, I hate to say this. It's going to get worse if he wins the attempts on his life. I think the bullshit court cases will go away. But I hate to admit or even think about there's a strong possibility. Not only will they try again, it's almost going to happen, bro. I mean, you could only roll the dice so many times and keep coming up, in your favor before eventually they're proving how easy it is. Like I said, if this was the Macy's parade, we'd have a frozen perimeter, blocks. So think of New Year's Eve at Times Square, right? You got the president who was already almost assassinated, playing golf. This guy's sitting in the bushes for 12 hours. They keep getting closer. And eventually it's going to happen.
When I was a cop and I left the cops in 96, I remember one spring afternoon, I'm thinking 94. I was
with you.
I was still in the light blue shirts. We had the detail for the Israeli Day Parade in Manhattan. And I remember, and I still remember it now. So it's 30 years later since I did that detail. And the memory of being in awe about the security that was sent from Israel itself into Manhattan for that parade. Met a lot of fantastic people, a lot of people in the IDF, but they were in suits. And after getting to meet a couple of them, they said, hey, listen, just so that you know, I don't know if you've been told, but our lapel pin has the American flag and the Israeli flag, and we're all in the security detail. And the streets were flooded with these men in suits and sunglasses. And you could tell that they were a different type of person. You could tell that they were highly motivated. You could tell that they were highly trained. You could tell that they were there to make sure that the Israeli Day Parade went off without an issue. And that's the type of security that I sat in awe of 30 years ago from the smallest country in the Middle East. And that's the type of security that we, as the largest military force nation in the world, can't provide Donald Trump. We can provide it, but it's been refused to be provided.
Exactly. Dude, did you see a movie? Do you remember Serpico with Al Pacino?
Sure.
So for the people that don't know, watch it. It's a great movie. Al Pacino plays Frank Serpico, who was a cop in the 70s. All of the cops were taking money. He didn't want to participate. So he started wearing a wire. He was fearing for his life because he ended up testifying against them and put these disgusting, corrupt cops in jail. But there was a friend of his in the squad who warned him. He says, Frankie, just take the money or I'll hold the money because guys would feel better. And then he had another heart-to-heart with him towards the end of the movie. And he says, Frankie, I'm not telling you that it's going to happen, but it could happen. When we do a search warrant, they're going to send you in first enough times so that you're the one that's going to get shot. Or you're going to call for help and they won't hear you on the radio. They didn't actively go out and try to kill Frank Serpico, but it reminds me of Trump. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but it could happen where they send you in first enough times that Serpico gets taken out. And if you watch the movie, I don't want to ruin it for you, but movie's like 30 years old, so you should have seen it by now. But he does try to take a door, and he gets stuck in the door. True story. And his cops' friends are sitting there on the stairwell like this.
Get him up. Spread those hands up. Come on, spread them. Feet apart. Please. I said bye. All right, let's get limbo. Julio. You all right, baby? Yeah, I got him.
Mira, Limo, dame algo. ¿Quieres? Dame algo. Un momentico.
¡Puta, me cago en la jodida madre! ¡Paquito! ¡La policía! ¡Tráeme la policía! ¡Tráeme la pistola! ¡Corre! ¡Mata la mierda! ¡Tráeme la pistola! ¡Corre, carajo! ¡Por el fire escape! ¡Corre! ¡Corre, ligero!
That's what I feel like we're dealing with Trump. Just, we're not going to do it, but eventually it's going to happen. They asked Biden, they woke him up, they asked him, how come, what do you know about the security? How come it wasn't expanded? He blamed it on Congress, right?
Do you have any more information on the assassination attempt?
I think thank God the president's okay. I think we got a full report so far. We're down there tonight. But one thing I want to make clear, the service needs more help. And I think the Congress should respond to their needs if they, in fact, need more services. So that's what we're going to be talking about.
It's got nothing to do with Congress, bro. It's got nothing to do with Congress because the Biden-Harris administration denied Secret Service protection for JFK. They could have upped the security for Trump when they asked for it before Butler, and they didn't. They could have upped it to where it should be since Butler, and they haven't. And for him to blame Congress, I'm not surprised. That's what all Democrats do. It's the Democrats who are passing a bill to strip President Trump of Secret Service protection if he goes to jail. Why would you do that unless you wanted him dead? It's Frank Serpico all over again. They're just going to do something here and something there, ignore this, ignore that, and hopefully let nature take its course. They want him dead. They do.
Well, all of these situations, and they don't even see it, it's an indictment on the left. It's an indictment on their cult. It's an indictment on their followers. You and I are common sense Americans. We don't always get our way. We hope we're going to get our way, but we don't always get our way. You and I also carried firearms for a living, so we know how vitally important it is to care for those firearms in our possession and make sure that if we're ever going to use them, they're used within the parameters of the law. So people like you and I and 85 million other conservative Americans out there, Paul, we're not going to go shoot people when we don't get our way. It's why Kamala Harris can transverse the Midwest country, the Midwest states of this nation. You know, the whole Bible and gun area that Hillary Clinton said, where they hold on to their Bibles and their guns.
Obama said that too.
And sure, and made those people out to be, or made them sound like they were crazy. She can go on the campaign trail in a big bus that says Harris for president. Everybody knows who's behind that in that bus. There's no threat on her life. There shouldn't be. There's no threat on Joe Biden's life. There shouldn't be. But Donald Trump can't play around the golf without his life being threatened by the cult of the left. They refuse to accept responsibility for what they've said, for what they've spawned, for who follows them. They refuse to accept responsibility. And like I said, the very next day, Hillary Clinton comes out, doubles down, and says he's a threat to the entire world. These people, they have no clue that they're being lied to. None. And I'm telling you, Paul, I really believe, sadly, and I hate to say this, I really believe that these people, some of them think males can give birth. I do. Yeah. And that's who we're dealing with here. We're dealing with people that they need to be on medication. They need to be observed. They need to be tightly controlled, and they're not. What they're being led to believe that Donald Trump needs to be taken out. And there's more than two in this country, Paul. There's more than
I know. Dude, it's not. excuse me, it's not just that if you're telling everyone that he's Hitler, you're not only thinking that you'll be a hero for taking him out, you think it is your obligation. You feel obligated. You have people calling him Hitler, not just a threat to democracy. Who's okay? So you got Joseph Stalin, you have Mao, you have Pol Pot. Everyone thinks about Hitler, right? The most destructive, most evil person in our history, at least the last 100 years. If you have an opportunity to take him out, you must do it. This is what they're thinking. When you got Joe Scarborough calling him, saying that when Trump gets elected, he's going to have his people on the other side executed. You think I have no other choice? And it's your obligation. You're doing it for the good of the country. Actually, let me play that. Have you seen that with Joe Scarborough? Listen to this.
Dark days are ahead if MSNBC's Joe Scarborough is to be believed. The Morning Joe host claimed that Donald Trump would imprison or execute his political opposition if he won re-election. Here's some of what he had to say.
If he is voted into office, then a lot of these people that are talking about literal or figurative or whatever the hell they're saying, you're going to look like idiots because he will get away with, he will imprison, he will execute whoever he's allowed to imprison, execute, drive from the country.
Now listen to him actually compare him to Hitler. He mentions Mein Kampf. For those who don't know, Mein Kampf is like the Nazi manifesto. It was prepared by Hitler when he was in prison in the early 1920s. I think it was 1924. Translated, I think it means my struggle. Right. It's an autobiography from Hitler. So now listen to Scarborough tie Trump to Mein Kampf.
Maybe he didn't read Mein Kampf, but he kept a collection of Hitler speeches by his bed, according to his first wife, in a Vanity Fair article. And you can hear it in his words. You can see it at his rallies. That's exactly the direction he's going. He's going doubling, tripling down on fascist Hitler-like rhetoric.
That's it. Hitler-like rhetoric there. And here's just another one of some of the, listen to the guy at the end, you're going to die, of some of the stuff. I'm sure that you've seen this before. Johnny Depp, Madonna. Here's a small clip of the rhetoric against Trump and why I believe people are trying to take him out.
When was the last time an actor assassinated a president? I want to clarify, I'm not an actor.
It's William Shakespeare's play Julius Caesar like you've never seen before. A man dressed to look like President Donald Trump gets stabbed to death on stage.
Yes, I'm angry. Yes, I am outraged. Yes, I have thought an awful lot about blowing up the White House.
I will go and take Trump out tonight.
They're still going to have to go out and put a bullet in Donald Trump, and that's a fact.
That's it, man. I mean, when you hear that stuff over and over and over again, and we know, like you said, his social media is all anti-Trump, you have an obligation to do right by the country.
Well, sadly, they're losers. Losers. Those people have serious delusional issues, and the people that follow them do also. They're all cut from the same cloth. They all look alike. They all have bad hygiene. They're just terrible people. Terrible people. They're angry people. Like I said, they think men can get pregnant. They're not that difficult to keep back from the president. They're not that difficult to keep a perimeter around and identify. And we always hear they were on the FBI's radar. They were on the FBI. Of course, they're on the FBI's radar. What does the FBI do about it? They do nothing about it. Nothing.
They're busy going after, people who
100%
pray in front of abortion clinics.
100%.
Yeah. So, I got to go pick up my son. So this is probably a short one. I got to say, man, I love that freaking beard.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
I love it, bro. I love it. I want to do this again. Please, let me know when you can come back. We can even do a part 2 because I have to stop now.
Yeah.
Real quick, we have I would say maybe 3 minutes left. You had said on the phone, it's not going to stop. There's going to be a third one. Do you think that this will finally make them realize we got to give this guy more protection, or you think it's just going to be more of the same?
More of the same. It was more of the same after the first attempt. The only difference now was you had a well-spoken sheriff stand up in front of the microphone and say that everything worked flawlessly. It didn't work flawlessly because you can't grant that type of access. If the perimeter is breached, then it's not. There's nothing successful. Now you're just trying to make sure that whatever mess is created is a mess that's not too messy, if that makes sense. You're trying to mitigate. You've already been breached, so you've already given up. You've already given up the high ground. You've already given up your observational high ground. They're where they shouldn't be. Nothing about this is a success. Nothing about letting this guy get into a car and chasing him into the next county is a success. It just goes to show that and this guy. And let's take a look at who this guy was. Like I said, look at him physically. Look at him mentally. This is not the cream of the crop. So I think that we would be foolish to think that more people are not going to be able to gain the access that they shouldn't have. This is, what I actually heard somebody say on the media, that Donald Trump should stop playing golf.
I heard that too. You're
telling somebody to just stop living. You're telling somebody to stop going out. You're telling somebody to stop being around people. And what you're blaming the girl who wore the high skirt for the rape. You're blaming
exactly.
You're blaming Trump for the attempt on his life because he's out living life.
Dude, they're saying that even they did this after the first one, and now they're doing it again. They're saying he's the one that needs to tone down the rhetoric. I got to play it. I know I'm going to be late, but I got to play it. Listen to this.
There to be calls from within the Trump campaign to do that. Because he's going to reach out to his supporters and say, let's take this down. We do not know, again, the source of any gunshot or gunshots. We don't know who's responsible for this. The whole thing has yet to be 100% confirmed from start to finish how this all played out. But do you expect to hear anything from the Trump campaign about toning down the rhetoric, toning down the violence, or would that be atypical of the former president?
They're blaming him, bro. You're exactly right. It's a rape victim saying, "Well, why'd you wear that? You should have known better." But it's incredible that all the rhetoric. I just played you a couple of things. People are saying they need to go out and shoot Trump, and you're blaming him for the rhetoric. And they did this in the first assassination attempt. You had CNN and CBS News saying the same thing. I'll put them in post. I'm sure you've seen it also. I'm running late. I got to go.
Okay.
Thank you, brother. I'll talk to you soon. Come on again. All right.
I want to just read a part of his statement from 8:42 tonight on Truth Social. He said, "Nothing is known at this time about the shooter, who is now dead. I was shot with a bullet that pierced the upper part of my right ear. I knew immediately that something was wrong and that I heard a whizzing sound, shots, and immediately felt the bullet ripping through the skin. Much bleeding took place, so I realized then what was happening." He closes with "God bless America," and we saw him raise his hand in the air defiantly, blood on his face as he left the stage.
He is recovering from these injuries now. This was a traumatic event, no doubt, for him, but I did notice there was no call for lowering the temperature, condemning all political violence, and really trying to signal to his supporters as well not to retaliate or to have any kind of escalation here. I just am looking at these statements.
There's a belief in his inner circle that he's under siege after being attacked at his rally.
I do want to say there was one thing that when I watched the tape, I found odd because of all of the heated rhetoric. And that is that after he was hit, former President Trump got up and said, fight, fight, fight. I think what we're hearing from people is that's not the message that we want to be sending right now. We want to tamp it down.